Welcome to Hello Grow, the Growth Podcast.
We're doing this, baby.
We're doing it. Number one, ground zero.
Ground zero. It's I was thinking about that. It's literally at the beginning of the year I told you that I wanted to open a YouTube channel. That was like really, really hard for me.
Yeah.
And didn't even think about it until like this morning. I was like, oh, we're doing this. I can check that one off of my goals for the year. But yeah, I'm really excited.
Why'd you want to do it?
It's always been hard for me to talk in public.
Luckily, it's just you and me, so it's not public.
That's true. It's hard to forget that the camera's right there, though. It's always not so much the public, but I think I'm an overthinker, and I keep thinking about after I talk in public. I keep thinking like, what did people think about it? And I think this is a way for me to break that habit. Like, I shouldn't be caring for what people are thinking about it. Just should do what I want to do and get better at talking to a big audience, which it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Heck yeah. Cool. Maybe on this first one, it'd be beneficial to go through why we're kind of our backgrounds in addition to why we're doing it. So I can introduce you.
And I can introduce you.
Okay, cool. So to introduce Carlos, the man Souza, I met Carlos 4 years ago. Has it been that long?
I think it's a little, probably 4 years, yeah.
Cool. So I grew up with my dad being in a wheelchair, and Carlos is from Brazil, was attending school in Salt Lake, and a grinder and a hustler, and one of the things he was doing was helping my dad with some of the things he needed being a quadriplegic. And first time I met Carlos, I was like, okay, this guy's a freaking rock star. And was finally able to recruit him over to work with me. And that
was a very interesting recruiting process.
Yeah.
He took a text and a phone call.
Yeah. Just like you're hired. And then Carlos came on just in a frontline operational role. And then you quickly went into an accounting role, then head of a team, then head of people, and efficiencies, back into an even bigger operational role, and then into growth and sales, and became our head of growth for Aspen. And at that point, we had one salesperson who had kind of who was my business partner and been the backing for the growth in the company. And we were experiencing the same amount of growth each year. And Carlos came in and for a similar budget was able to quadruple our growth numbers in about a year without any experience. So
luckily.
What's that?
Luckily.
Yeah, a lot of luck. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's very nice of you, though. What you're saying sparked a couple of things in my mind, but I'll introduce you before we jump. So, Matt Court, 4 years ago, the first time we actually met was at the hospital. I don't know if you remember that. You came to visit your dad, and I was there helping him out that day. And I remember that first interaction, you just like everything I had heard about you before. I had been helping your dad for like 2 months up to that point, and your dad was just like, oh, my son is a genius. He reads one book a week, and he drives a Tesla. He's just like super proud of you. So I had heard, and you ran a successful company, and that was the stuff I heard about you. So like when you came over, the way that I remember just like introduced myself. We talked for like 5 minutes. You asked like 5 questions about my life. You didn't even talk about yourself. You're super nice. I remember just thinking like, yeah, that's not what I expected. Just like it was different from what I expected. So humble, and you just made the entire conversation about me. You asked like how my accounting classes were going. So that was pretty cool. And then after that, I think we met every month. We just met every month, and it became kind of saw you as a mentor before I came to Aspen, and then when I joined Aspen, you walked through the story. But yeah, then I think it went from being a mentor to a coworker to one of my best friends. But before all of that, Court has been he's probably the best salesperson I've ever met in my life. Also, I've never seen anyone lead a team the way that he does it. Yeah, you're just incredible at leading people, and everyone is kind of drawn to you. And that's because of how much you care for the people around you and their success. And that's why I think you've been so successful so early in your life in sales and starting companies, is because you not only have the work ethic, but you have people around you that they're just loyal to you. They're just also like, if you can do it, they'll do it for you. And I think that's an extremely amazing gift that you have.
It's kind of you to say. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and he was talking about scaling his business and said he was stuck. And we talked through it, and I said, when you said I'm the best salesperson you've met, I don't think that's actually true. I think it is true. You are that. And as we were talking through my conversation yesterday, I said, I just think you're going to have a hard time scaling your business without your involvement. Because I told him about getting this company up and going, and then putting in the 70-hour weeks, then building the team. And now my role is really showing up for monthly priority and financial reviews with the executive team, and then quarterly meetings. And outside of that, really the team 100% runs the company. And I told him I think he'd have a hard time, because he was such a capable entrepreneur, that finding somebody that outdid him was going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible. And from my perspective, I think you nailed it on the head, that the reason I was able to create what I created was not because of my own sales ability, but was that ability to surround myself with people that were much more capable than I was, align them all together, put them in the right seats, and then press go. And so you've been that person that was the right person to go and grow this thing. And I think it's important, like, it's worth talking about the vision of what we have. Like, we're going to turn this into a $100 million revenue company over the next decade, which is going to be unreal.
We're on the way. Yeah. I also think that you once told me that sometimes you just have to be okay with people doing 80% of, as good of a job as you do. And if you find someone that can do as good of a job, 80% of as good of a job as you can do, you should outsource it. So I also think that you could have done a much better job than I've done in sales, like much, much better job. But like, you knew that I would probably do 60% of what you would have been able to accomplish, but you were able to trust and outsource that to me, and we've been able to turn.
I think that is a good principle. I do think that that's true. If you can find somebody that will perform at 80% the level that you can, if you can stack a bunch of 80% over and over and over instead of just your 100%, then you can grow really, really fast. But in that process, when you get really good at delegating and helping other people see the vision and align behind the vision, there are those people that you find that become the leaders in your company that perform at 120 or 150 or 200% what you actually could have. And so if they're performing at 80%, you have to be really clear on the behaviors that need to be executed in their role. And if they're going to perform at 100% plus, then you need to be really clear in the vision and the outcomes. Yeah. And then you have to let them do the behaviors, because if you try and dictate, here's how you need to do it, then you're actually hindering like the progress that they can make and the creativity that they bring to the table.
I think there are two sides to that, right? First, it's not that because they do 80% of what you would do, or they're 70% as good as you are, that doesn't mean that they are never going to be 100%, 200% of, at that point in time, they wouldn't do as good of a job as you would, but then over time they can grow, because, well, people can grow, right? People can develop themselves. And second, the amount of time that you have, even though you would do a better job, you don't have the time to be 100% in that role. So that 80% even might be 200%
compared to what you could do
because
with your
you
time
don't
divided.
have time. Yeah. So I think those are two different things.
So why do we want to have this specific podcast? We talked a lot about what the name was going to be and what we wanted to talk about on the podcast. Why do we want to have one that's focused on growth and specifically leveling up our businesses and lives?
I think that for myself, and something that I wanted to make very clear, and I'll make sure that I make that very clear on the future episodes, that I don't feel like I'm an expert in sales. So the reason for the podcast, not that I'm going to be here teaching sales, but I want to have people on the podcast that I can learn from and that we're going to learn from, and we're all going to, both us, like the two of us, and our audience can grow together as salespeople. And as an outlet, I feel like I think it's, well, two things: as an outlet for us just to kind of share things that we believe and things that we've done, and find someone out there who will benefit from this. And then the third one, well, we want to build a brand around it, right? We want to build I don't want to say a cult, but we want to build a
following.
A following, yeah. We want to build a following. That's a good way to put it.
So you talked about, a year ago when you came to me and said, hey, I could do sales, you had done no formal sales. You had been selling yourself for the prior 24 years of your life since you were born.
Yeah.
With door to door and all the things that you had done, but it wasn't under like this title of sales with formal training. So talk to me about, over the last year, you went from doing significantly less than what had been done in sales prior. So you quadrupled what we had done as a company in sales, but you probably 10 or 15x'd what you were able to accomplish in month 1 to what you're able to accomplish in month 12. So what are the couple things between like skills that you've learned, recruiting, building a team, all the things that you've done, that if somebody is going to go on that path, kind of what that vision could look like over just a short 12-month period?
You should have told me that you're going to ask that question.
I didn't know I was going to ask it until now, but I think that it would be valuable to share.
Well, a couple corners that I feel like I've turned. The first one was when my first 3 months in sales, I felt like I was cold calling. I was doing demos without any structure. We didn't have a CRM. We didn't have like a nice deck, like a presentation deck. We just nothing, right? Just grinding. And it wasn't, we were keeping up with the results that we had been having because we're doing the same thing. So the same results are happening. It was until, I think, December or January when you introduced me to Soren, which came on as a consultant a couple hours a week. And very simply, he kind of deconstructed a sales organization for me that I had never had direct interaction with. And then he said, hey, this is how an organization runs. You should have SDRs, you should be closing, you should have a CRM, and you put those contacts through a sequence. And then, so he just kind of walked me through what an organized sales structure should look like. We put that in place, and immediately after that, we started having more results. So I think that was the first big turn. And then the second one was I decided that I needed to have, so we started hiring SDRs, and they needed to be better at convincing people to accept a demo than me, right? So giving them the tools and the training for them to be as good as I was at the time calling, but also, hey, my goal is for you to be better than me at getting demos. So like putting the right people in place, and giving them the tools and having the patience also to get that to where we needed to be. And literally it was just putting the right people in place. And now we have 6 salespeople with me. They're figuring it out. The only thing, sometimes they get stuck and they come to me, hey, Carlos, should we do that or should we do this? And we just talk through, and they are figuring things out. So it's literally having the right people, giving them also like a vision of what that can become for them. We have 2 lead SDRs now, 3, and just like, hey, here's how much you can be making, and walking them through what their lives could look like if they succeed in that role and if they continue to grow as a salesperson. I felt like some people came onto sales like this is a transition, like it's a transition. I'm gonna be here until I find something better, and we've been able to like now a lot of these people want to have sales as their career because now they see what I saw for them, right? So it's a matter of helping them create a vision, and because they have that vision, they're just figuring things out by themselves, and I'm just focusing on okay, what's next now? What's the next big thing?
It sounds like there's 3 things that would be a really interesting podcast for an audience to see, especially somebody that's building a sales organization or going through the process that you went through. One is building that playbook. You went from not having just scrappy, like hustle, scrappy, to having a CRM with a way to find leads and then push them through a sequence and having that playbook. The second part that you talked about is building a team, and obviously you can accomplish more with a group of you than you can accomplish on your own. Yeah. So that would be a really interesting episode to talk about how to build a sales team, how you recruit them, and then the third one is talking about training that team, where you have to make them better than you are at each one of those abilities, and that would be a really interesting one.
Yeah, training as well as that coaching side, mentoring side of like helping them create a vision for themselves. Because if they have that, training will kind of take care of itself, because they're going to work really hard to be good at that role, and they're going to come to me with questions. They're going to come to me, hey, can we role play? Instead of like you forcing that on them. That's because they don't know what that can become for them.
Yeah. I think one of your gifts is figuring out how to take seemingly nothing and create something significant out of it. Like, you created the playbook, you created the team, you created this training that you're putting them through. And you've also done it without saying, like, it wasn't egotistical, like, I have to be the one to create it. You've taken in like consulting from Soren, different websites, like using HubSpot. You didn't build your own CRM. You've taken in all of these tools, but it hasn't been this purely academic approach. Everything you've done has been for the intent of having the outcome of growing revenue with limiting our cost of acquisition.
Yeah, very low cost of acquisition. Yeah, looking back, I can put the finger on the things that helped us, but along the way, it was just messy. It was just so many days of have no idea how to grow this, and then Frankensteining it together and
Frankensteining it together. But now you know, and you could teach somebody.
Yeah.
And if you were gonna likely bring on additional verticals in our company, and to do that, you can find somebody, give them the playbook, and they can walk through. And you just created this McDonald's approach where they can replicate what you did to have the growth experience that you had. You talked about a transition in life where people are like, okay, I'm in operations right now. I'm going to go do sales for a second, learn some skills, and then I'm going to go into my real career.
Right.
But that mentality has changed. Your income what's the multiple on your income increase from when you started to now in sales? 4 or 5x?
Yeah, I don't know if I can disclose that information.
You don't have to say the number, but I think it's significant. And it's not a number of, oh, his salary has just gone up. It's any time that your salary is going up, unless you're just having nepotism or getting handouts, which is not happening, it's because you're creating more than that amount of value for somebody else. If you're getting sales, it's because you're creating more value than that for your customers. Right. If your salary is increasing, it's because you're creating more value than what you're receiving for the business. And oftentimes a 4 to 8 or 10x is being captured by the business that you're able to take home for yourself. So if you've increased your income by 4 or 5x, that means that you've increased your impact on the business by 4 or 5x times 4 to 10. Yeah. Which is significant. Yeah. And so I think that's something that people don't realize, like, oh, I'm stuck in this role or stuck at this salary like stage. That's not the case in sales. Like, that's the case in some jobs where it's just this linear increase where you're going to get the same raise. But if you truly want to have full control over your income, and people think, oh, on one side, like, oh, that's going to be, I want full control. And like, they don't realize that 2/3 of what you're being paid is just straight commission, because you're eating what you're killing, and you wouldn't have even doubled your income if you had just done what your base salary is.
Yeah. And if that's not happening for you, there's gotta be a way, and I don't know how to do that. I was very fortunate to work for people who understood the importance of sales. But if your organization doesn't understand the value of that, you can put the numbers together and convince them, because you're gonna find people out there that there's caps on commissions, and even if there's no motive for them to triple, make 10x.
Come work for Aspen.
Yeah, come work with us. Yeah, but you got to convince leadership that if your team and you are motivated enough, they're gonna be grateful for you at the end of the day.
And that conversation has to be, hey, I want to increase let's take a real small number. I want to increase my income by $100. Say, okay, your boss can say, awesome. For you to do that, I need you to provide an additional $400 to $1,000 of profit, like gross margin, to the company.
Yeah.
And then you have to have and you have to be able to do it in a way that we couldn't hire somebody else to do the same thing. You can't just say, well, I'm providing this additional value. Awesome. Well, we can't pay you more because the market rate for that role, because we could hire 200 other people that could do it for a lesser number. So you have to do it against what the market rate. And then if you have a compelling argument,
just come prepared.
Yes.
Come prepared with the numbers. It's a different thing. Hey, I need to make 1.5 of what I'm making right now. Okay, that's it. And then you come, okay, but here's what the company will get from me being incentivized to do this. And if leadership doesn't accept that, just go work for somebody else.
And it's the exact same as when you're selling to a customer. Hey, we need to increase your prices. Okay, show me. I'm fine paying more. Show me how we're going to capture more value because you're increasing our price by 50 or 100%. And it's the same when we go and shop. If we're going to buy something, we're not going to double what we're paying for it unless it's adding more than that amount in value, and often significant more. Yeah,
totally agree. Kind of switching the subject, I want to hear from you. What is your vision? We've talked about it. You asked about, why did I want to start a podcast? Why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, when you asked, I had this emotional shock instantly when you asked. I feel like I should not be here in life. I have no reason to have the life that I have. There's people are way more talented. I like to say I'm the hardest worker, but there's people that are honestly, you're a harder worker than I am. There's people that are harder workers, more talented, that are not in the situation that I am, that they got to start a company and do exactly what they love, and I feel like I just have the best life. And my thinking behind that is that if I can help provide, the reason I am here is because people have provided opportunities and experiences to me that otherwise would have been unavailable. And I've captured those experiences, I held on to them and then took what I learned, and I feel like similar to what you did, there was this opportunity, this experience that wasn't available to everyone, but there were quite a few people that could have had this. My entire circle of connections could have also had the opportunity that you had, but you're the only one that jumped onto that opportunity and ran with it. And I think I can do that on a larger scale, and that's what brings me a ton of fulfillment. So if I'm able to help provide opportunities and experiences to other people, I think once through information, I've started doing founder coaching for other entrepreneurs. That's been extremely fulfilling. And I think there's just a lot of learning to be had as people go throughout this journey. So hopefully you can help people get there faster and with less needed pain. I think suffering has a place in the world and helps us grow, but a lot of the suffering is self-induced and unnecessary. So suffer on the right things so you can get actual progress from the suffering.
Yeah. One thing that you're saying that because of that purpose, I think between you and yours and mine, I think we have a pretty good core, a pretty good reason to be here. But when you're saying that, it reminded me, I think I had been working for Aspen for a month. I walked into your office. You asked me something. We were going to have a conversation. At the time we had 15 employees, 20 maybe. back in the day, um, and I saw under your monitor it was written on a piece of paper, just handwritten. My purpose is to make. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Is to make people around me successful, and like I'm not gonna say that that is the main reason why like I stuck along. I just got on full on board, but just small things like that I noticed. I think more than being loyal to the company, I felt like I was loyal to you at the beginning because I knew you had my best interest at heart, and not because you told me that, but that was all over your actions. And I maybe you didn't see that I saw that note, right? So that's one of the reasons. Kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, and kind of attaching that to the for the podcast. But I think that's one of the reasons why everything you touch flourishes. Like everything that you touch, just becomes successful. That's because you're just so selfless, and if we just take the same approach with this, I think there's only one outcome, and it's that we're gonna be successful.
That's good of you to say. Yeah, I felt I was fortunate enough when I turned 24. Um, I had 10x my income from age 22 to age 24. I didn't break seven figures that year, but I made a lot of money, and had this realization that for me, and there's no, like, I'm so for everyone wanting exactly what they want. If somebody wants a Bugatti and somebody wants a yacht, go for it full bore. Like, heck freaking yeah, let's go. For me, it didn't give me the fulfillment that I wanted. And the thing that always did give me the fulfillment that I wanted was providing those opportunities and experiences to other people and watching them be successful. Like when I got to hear what your commission check was, like you've broken some big barriers that I don't think 2 years ago you thought I'd be at this stage in life. And it was the same thing for me. Like I never thought I'd be here, but I got to have these experiences. And I think the people that helped me were able to receive some satisfaction from watching that, and watching you go on the quest and do I don't want to make it sound like I did more than I did. I gave you an opportunity. You did everything else to turn it into what it needed to be, and we're able to capture the rewards from that. And I just think at some point, like you have enough money that an extra dollar is not going to make any difference in your life. And I really like the quote. If someone says money can't buy happiness, you haven't given enough away. And I don't think giving money away is the way to get happiness. I think because that's giving a man a fish. But when you teach them how, or give them the opportunity to, then they get the confidence from knowing. Before, I didn't think I could have. I was in this hopeless state. But now I know I could set my mind on something, figure out the behaviors that are going to lead to that outcome, and then execute on those behaviors long enough to develop the skills that will result in me having that outcome. Then you have somebody that has this confidence that they can be that quote that is your captain of your soul and master of your fate.
Master of my fate, captain of my soul. Yeah.
Like that's what you're helping people discover. And I think that's in all of us. So, that.
Can I ask you a question there?
Good. Yeah.
A few times over the past 3 years, I've asked myself, what did Court see in me at that time? Like, I was just like, I started actually as an internship, like, and
because you were still in college.
And I was still in college.
I got you to drop out of college, so
yeah.
Parents listening to the podcast.
Mom, you might be finding out through this podcast that I didn't finish college. What did you see in me? But like, what are you as a person who can give opportunities to others? What are you looking for in them? Not specifically me, but what are you looking for in people that makes you okay? I want to help this guy.
That's a really good question. To go broad first, and we'll talk about you after. I wanted to help everybody. Like How many people do you know that want to lose weight or want to get out of debt or have a bigger house or have a healthier relationship? There's tons and tons and tons of those people. Um, However, you can provide opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to some people, and they will just never ever take it. Whether and to be honest, I have a really hard time understanding that because that's never been me. I'm not wired that way. Like I've seen an opportunity over and over again and taken it and always wanted to improve and to be better. So I think I've narrowed it down from wanting to help everybody to um, wanting to help those interested in helping themselves. I don't think it's possible to out outpace someone else's desire. Like if you have desires greater than theirs for their outcome, like it just doesn't work. In my experience, and it's just disheartening, and you're just beating your head against the wall. So I think if somebody has desire, that's the most important thing. Like if they have a consistent desire to have something be different in their life, then that's the people that I go after. I think the other part to that is the dreamers of they want something. It's crazy, and part of that helping people have opportunities and experiences. Sometimes if you just present like here's what life can look like, and that's why I think talking about your income 4 or 5xing in the last 12 months is important, because people don't know that. They think, yeah, I can go the next 12 months of my life and I can get the most, I can get a 20% raise. Like that's the mentality. Well, yeah, you can, and some people only get a 5% raise and some people only get a 2% raise. And that is one potential outcome. But there's also a world that exists where you could go get a 450% raise over the next 12 months. And people don't realize that. Or today I'm making, from age 22 to 25, I 10x what I was making in a year, my net worth. And from age 25 to 32, I 10x'd again what I was making in my net worth. And so if you look back over the last decade, it's been 100x increase, right? 10x and 10x is 100x increase from what I was making. And I think that's part of, like, it's not this exclusive group that gets to do that. Like, you can do it. Anyone can do it, but they don't have the desire enough to get there. And then they also don't dream big enough. They get what they dream about. So I think those are the things on a broad spectrum. From what I saw in you, you for sure checked both of those boxes. You just had a deep, deep desire. I think you had a chip on your shoulder, which I think people think is a bad thing sometimes. But I think similar, like oftentimes when you're going to go and be great, there's always an enemy. There's always a hero and a villain, right? And so oftentimes the hero becomes the hero as they're attempting to overcome the villain. And for mine, I hated my life. Like the first 18 years of my life were just like I hated them. And for the last probably 8 years or 10 years of my life, I don't feel like anyone's ever lived a better life. And I think part of that was you have this subset of people whose lives are good enough. They don't suck enough for them to do what's necessary to pull themselves out. So they just stay in this mediocrity their entire lives. But I think you had experiences growing up where you saw people getting things that you didn't get, or had embarrassing moments or whatever it was that you said, I never want to feel this way again. So I'm going to go do what needs to be done. And so I think we related on that, and I was able to see that in you. I was like, okay, this kid's going to crush. And then the last thing is you weren't myopic in your approach, in that you didn't put your blinders onto everything else. You have this super unique ability where you can crush in your own role and then see the business as a whole and drive change that's beneficial in the entire business. Some people are just one or the other. They say, like, because I'm making all these changes and having these great ideas for the business, I can suck at my own role and not be the top performer in my own role. Or I'm going to go crush in my role, but they don't look at how that affects the entire business. And so I think that's one of the things that makes you unique in your ability to put your head down and grind and blow your numbers and your priorities out of the water, while at the same time seeing how that fits in the company as a whole, and push both of those at the same time. It's a very unique ability. So I think those are the things that I saw in you.
Well, I've told you this many times, but you're way nicer than than reality.